It's preparing itself. All right. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome back to Daybreak Live, where every Thursday we interview people that are movers and shakers in the publishing community. And today we have a special treat. Of course, we are so thrilled to welcome the 6 poets that worked together to produce Our Ancestors Did Not Breathe This Air. Can somebody hold it up? Ah, good. Nice, nice, nice. All right. And as you can see, Our Ancestors Did Not Breathe This Air won the Daybreak Press Book Award last year for poetry. And if you are a person who reads a lot of poetry, if you are a person who has an ear for poetry, you can tell from the title that this book is poetic and poignant. Poetic and poignant on so many levels, I have to say. So what we're going, since we have a panel of authors, which isn't usually the case, we are going to kind of hop around from one to the other. I'm going to introduce them to you, and then each of our authors, our poets, will read a section or a selection from the book that they have chosen. And then at the end, if the one I'm hoping to hear hasn't been read, or there's a couple I'm hoping to hear, if we have time, we'll see if we can listen to those as well. And then we have a little tiny bit of a curveball we're going to throw them. So buckle up, ladies. All right. Get back to my bios. First, we're going to speak with Afifa. Afifa, can you give us a wave? All right, Afifa Khazi Sayed was born and raised in the DFW Metroplex, where I'm scared to drive, by the way. So crazy drivers there. Oh
Rightfully so.
But has always called 2 places home, the suburbs of Texas and her grandparents' homes in southern India. After studying biological engineering with a minor in urban studies at MIT, Afifa finds herself on a new journey as a first-year medical student at UT Southwestern. She attributes her love for writing and storytelling to her grandparents' bedtime stories and the many writing mentors she has found throughout her life, from high school English teachers to other immigrant writers. Afifa views poetry as a deeply personal exchange of experiences. Now, I have to tell you the secret that Afifa told me right before we went live, which is that she just finished board exams this morning. And so we have to say for her, we are so excited that you do not have to retain that particular info at this particular moment anymore.
Thank you so much.
Yes, boards are always a run-up to trauma. But then once it's over, you can like breathe 2 breaths before the next, right?
Absolutely.
2 breaths ought to get you there. Okay. All right. So tell us, Afifa, which selection of poetry are you going to read for us this evening?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is fitting.
Oh, sorry, we can't hear you. It doesn't say that you're, oh yeah.
Can you hear me now?
No. Oh my goodness.
I can
We
hear
were talking
her.
earlier, so it was good at sound check. Let's see what happened. Oh wait, hold on just a second. Oh, sorry, we can't hear you. No, it's me. Hold on a second. It doesn't say that you're, oh yeah.
Can you hear me now?
No. Oh my goodness.
I can hear her.
We were talking earlier, so everybody else is going, I can hear her. Sorry. Okay, now talk.
Hello.
Okay, yes. All right. Sorry, I had to mute the live.
No worries. Thank you so much for having us here today. I will start off by reading the very first poem in the book called Parachute. And here I go. Every time I settle at your feet with a bowl of coconut oil in hand, swirled and warmed for exactly 15 seconds in the microwave, I feel generations. The hands of each and every one of them must have also moved like yours, working through knots of carelessness and exhaustion. The wrinkles on your fingers must have been passed down through hidden battles I will never know of, and this massage routine must have grown in perfection through centuries of ummis and nanis and dadis. When you neatly fold my hair into your signature braid, something tells me these words have been said before. When will you start taking care of yourself? I answer by asking you the same.
Wow. So amazing. Sorry, I'm holding the book. I mean to do something.
Thank you, thank you.
It's not like you get half a snap. Okay, tell us the story of the moments that created this poem.
Absolutely. So something that, is some of my fondest memories growing up with my mother, my grandmothers, has always just been coming home at the end of a long day and having them give me a little hair oil massage where we would warm up a bowl of coconut oil, and my mom or my grandma would just, massage it into my hair, put my hair into a nice little braid, and it just felt like it was a moment I was coming home to. And whether that was, coming home to my mom, or whenever we did go back to India and visit my grandparents, that was something my grandma was always like, first day, she was like, okay, we're going to take care of your hair. We're going to give you an oil massage. And I think these moments are all just, they feel so routine, but they're such special moments because it's a moment where you get to put everything to the side and you're just, both you and your mom or your grandmother are all just so focused in that moment. And so I really wanted to capture just the beauty of that, and also just how that moment is also so representative of what it means to be a mother and how giving it is to be a mother. Like I've never put hair or oil in my mom's hair. That's something she always does for me. And so kind of also just the idea of it's something that a mom does for her daughter selflessly. So yeah.
SubhanAllah. Did your mom ever put oil in her mom's hair as her mom aged?
Yes, as my grandma's gotten older, that is definitely something that she's done.
SubhanAllah. It's a full circle.
It is.
SubhanAllah. All right. So tell us, when you guys were writing the poetry for this, if you can think of one word that captured your creative process at that time, or your creative, like what would you name that period of time that when you were writing these poems?
Absolutely. The first thing that comes to my mind is scientific, because in the process of writing this book, something that we really cared a lot about was thinking through the impact that our words have and an impact that our poems have. So after having generated all these poems, we actually did what we called like little, they were like little sessions where we would bring in people that we knew, friends, teachers, family members, and we would have them just listen to us read a collection of our poems, and we would ask them for feedback. It felt very much like scientific, like we were running a little like mini experiments, putting things out there, collecting data, and then redoing things accordingly. And it's something we were really dedicated to. And I think we probably did 5 or so of those sessions. And I think the engineers and the scientists in this kind of came out, and we wanted to be very systematic to something that's also very creative. So that, at least for that phase of the project, I would say scientific.
It's such a blessing to have both of those running in the veins,
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much, Afifa. We're going to turn to Alina. Alina Shabir was born in Queens, New York, and has lived in New York ever since. As a Pakistani US American, she cherishes connecting with a multitude of cultures in addition to her own roots. No better place to do that, right? Many years after the minor poetry lessons she had taken in elementary school, Alina found a community with these fellow poets who have taught her how to express herself creatively and comfortably. She is forever grateful for them and their care. SubhanAllah, creatively and comfortably. A lot of times people feel like their writing, it's creative, and they feel that kind of creative streak that goes through them, but then the horror of sharing it, the horror of being comfortable with it, being comfortable with the feelings it brings. SubhanAllah. She is forever grateful for them and their care. Having studied data or data, settle this argument.
I say data, but it could be anything.
Having studied data science/operations, research, and different fields of applied mathematics, Alina hopes to one day work in policy development with a quantitative background. Alina usually enjoys reading, anything to do with nature, traveling, and pursuing adrenaline-inducing experiences. Oh, snap. All right. Read us a poem, and then we will address that adrenaline.
Thank you so much for the lovely introduction. I'm going to be reading on my poem that's on page 98. It's called The Landing. And so here we go. Each time the plane descends, I can feel the air lift my mother's face and widen my father's smile, peace shining in their eyes. Free rides in Joyland instead of Playland. Fried chicks, not KFC, filling both heart and stomach with calories that last a lifetime. The airport, crowded. The crowd, lively. The yelling of different travelers, all coming home. My mamu, always there to pick us up, holding cold, fresh shezans, a sweetness that can only be tasted back in Pakistan.
Nice, mashallah. I love this line. I love the stanza of free rides to Joyland instead of Playland, fried chicks, not KFC, filling both heart and stomach. This is the part I love. Filling both heart and stomach with calories that last a lifetime. SubhanAllah, that metaphor. And of course, we can all remember when we were in elementary school and we were taught how to guess the meanings of words from the context. We can all imagine what a shezan, what a shezan might be. But for those of us not in the know, is it like a lassi?
So yeah, it's like a mango juice. So you see on the page with the poem, there's like a juice box. So shezan is actually like kind of packaged similarly, and so it's mango juice. Yeah.
Nice, wonderful,
Beautifully drawn by Afifa.
So I'm wondering about the period of time when you were writing these poems. What memory sticks out to you the most that includes one of your fellow poets?
So with let's see, writing do you mean like with this specific poem or any of my poems?
No, with any of the poems that are in the book during the period of time that those poems were being written and you guys were hanging together.
So I would
if I'm not mistaken, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just wanted to let everybody know that you guys did this when you were still in school, and then everyone has kind of gone her separate way, and you guys live in different places now, and you still keep up your work as much as you can, your poetry as much as you can. Keep in touch with each other. So you were together all the time, but now you're not. So I'm talking about that time when you were together.
So I would say one memory that like distinctly comes to mind is where one of my poems in the book, it's called Fleeting Faith, which talks about like my personal relationship with Islam and how like with different periods of my life and at different points of my mental health, how that affected my relationship with my faith. And so I remember when I first like presented it to everyone and read it out loud, like I was so nervous. I wasn't sure how it was going to be received because it's not something that I feel like I'm very public about, or like or isn't something that is not necessarily super discussed within circles that I've seen. And so I actually was with one of the poets in person at the time that one of the poets in person at the time that I was presenting this, and it was Mariam, who's sadly not here right now, but I remember her being like very encouraging, being like, no, just say it. It's so much better than like you think it is. And I remember like after I had finished like reciting it, everyone was like, what are you talking about? Like that was just that was like much better than what you would have thought. And like we loved hearing it. And so that is like one of the core memories that I will always cherish because it's a testament to how much of a safe space being with these poets like creates, and how much care and thoughtfulness went into this book.
Was that one of the things you were thinking of when you wrote that they taught you how to express yourself creatively and comfortably?
100%. Yeah.
Okay, we can't let you go without reciting that one for us too, please.
Absolutely. I just had it. Please give me 2 seconds. So it's on page 106. And so one of my favorite things about this poem is that there's like a number line, and
Okay.
the organization of the stanzas reflects like, am I feeling strong in my faith at some point? Do I feel a little more weak? Or it basically is reflective of,
Nice.
yeah.
Okay, for the people following along, I missed it, so I don't know, they might have missed it as well. What is the page?
It's page 106.
Okay.
So in love from the first moment, stabilized and grounded, discipline and order, truths I never knew I needed. Islamic school and summer camp, opportunities to know you more, falling deeper by the encounter, seeing the peace you bring others. An important part of me, but not everything. My energy was termed fiery and scandalous, guilty for being me while loving you. Khutbas, Jummah, halakas, rebuilding my safe zones, reinforcing the solo sincerity, Muslim at my core and foundation. Clinging on through thick and thin, 18 years of trials and bumps, sticking by your side, I knew you were worth it. Attacks on my inability to let you in, my biggest heartbreak. Shamed for weak faith, struggling through depression. No longer feeling strength, but hoping to return to it. After all, if two really love each other, they'll always find their way back. Thank you. Thank you so much.
One of the reasons that I'm sure the people in the audience loved this so much is because it's us. It's everyone. SubhanAllah, how those different kind, especially women, how those kind of experiences of how interacting with other Muslims and the way they judge or the way they talk about you or the way that, you know, like whatever the case may be, those kind of experiences, they don't realize what an effect it has both on someone's psyche and on their spirit.
Absolutely.
SubhanAllah. And so many women go through these kind of things. Taban, other people, men also go through these kind of things, but it seems to be something that, you know, I was talking with Miriam Amir, Ustada Miriam Amir, and she was talking about how all of the time when she goes to places to speak, women come to her with exactly these feelings, and you just captured them for us. SubhanAllah. Beautiful.
Thank you so much. I'm hoping, that as Muslims, we can encourage this discourse instead of just categorically and prescribing this label of, oh, like your faith is weak, because of course we know that it's not weak. It's just there are other factors that determine our mental health, and to like realize that these things all go hand in hand and not like reflective of you being a bad Muslim in any way.
Right. And that bad Muslim conclusion, it can contribute to the spiral in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, we will talk with Aisha Angela Gouvenelier. Did I say right? Gouvenelier? Yes. Beautiful. All right. Was born in Austin into a family with a Turkish father, a Venezuelan mother, and 3 older brothers. Growing up in Texas, France, and various parts of upstate New York, Aisha has always used reading and writing for connection, reflection, and relaxation as she moved from place to place. She sees poetry in particular as a form of writing that can surpass the bounds of what words are expected to be, in turn connecting her with others. Aisha got her bachelor's degree in biological engineering with a minor in creative writing from MIT, and is current a master's student in the biomechatronics group at the MIT Media Lab. Through her work, Aisha aims to emphasize, educate, and inspire the way that the works of others have always done for her. MashaAllah, welcome, Aisha. So glad to have you. Are you guys all stateside now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. What would you like to share with us?
Thank you for the introduction. I'm going to share Comb Through from Root to End on page 118. Comb through from root to end. You look Hispanic with those hoops. You look so Turkish. You clearly got your sach from here too. But you have your mommy's rizos. The way they say you don't know the deal, the scrunch of their eyes. You hide behind your madre for words she could never have taught. Unable to detangle adorations your abuelos loved you with, you avoid going near the teléfono when they're on. You take dersler on Saturdays, conditioning kelime by kelime that you thereafter forget. You decide to choose the lengua over French that could brush you closer to Anlayish more than maybe a palabra here or there. Your hair goes from dus to rizado, and somehow that changes where you're from. You give up on trying to make it perfect, on trying to weave each strand seamlessly into the next. You can't braid layered hair without the fringes sticking out. At least I have never been able to.
Nice.
Thank you.
All the third culture people of the world salute you. And the beautiful way that all of the accents roll off your tongue, mashallah. Very nice. Okay, so specifically about this poem, but also about the whole concept of the book and the poetry, the other poetry that you write, I would love to know the response that your parents had to it.
What was the response? I think they were just proud, honestly. They were just like, they've known since I was
Sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I'm gonna say they've known since a child that I love to write. Like I was that child, like in, I don't know, kindergarten, first grade, where you make those stories, and like you like staple your book together, and then you like make the drawings. I was the one like trying to make my stories like as long as possible. I had this friend, and she told me one time, oh, her story was like 20 pages long, and then I was like, oh my god, like mine's got to be that long. So I think they were like happy for me and like proud that I was like pursuing something that I've cared about and they've known I care about for so long.
Do they feel the feelings? Do they understand the feelings that are expressed here in this particular piece?
We actually have never talked about this poem. We haven't talked about most of my poems, but I know they've read them. So I'm actually not sure. Yeah.
I would love to know if they feel it, because I like my own children have a similar experience, and I feel so much for them. I feel so deeply, for even myself, that when I became Muslim, I thought, oh yay, I'm gonna be able to have two cultures and it's gonna be so cool. And what turned out is I didn't fit in really in any culture anymore. So I had to, like, of course, over the years I grappled with that and came to a healthier outlook on that, and took the benefits of all the cultures and kind of mixed them together. But I feel like if you're growing up with it, there is a different sense, because you're trying to find your identity yourself, while, like you said in here, like your identity is being defined by two different cultures for you. Did you ever experience any like any hurtful ways that manifested, or was it all just playful and, razzing and giving you a hard time? And how did it look?
I think for me, there were definitely times that it was hurtful. In retrospect, I'm like, maybe people didn't mean things the way that I interpreted them, but like the only way I could interpret it was like, oh, that hurts my feelings. I remember there was this one time I was talking to some people, and like I don't really speak Turkish, and then I like spoke even less, I'd say, than I speak now. And I don't know, I just felt judged in that instance for like not speaking Turkish. And at that moment also my Spanish wasn't the best either. And like, yeah, I felt really judged, and I was like, and inside I was feeling like, oh, you don't know my experience, like, and what I've been through, and like how it is. And at least for like in that specific example, like both their parents were Turkish, versus like for me it's like, oh, my parents are mixed, like, or not, I'm mixed and my parents come from Turkey.
Right. Yeah.
So, but there were some playful ones, like the one that I mentioned here, oh, you look so Turkish. So, and I still remember how the person said it too. So
it's fun how those things stay with you.
yeah.
All right, now let us actually, right now we're going to set a place for our absent friend Maisha Promi, and we're going to go ahead and read her bio, even though she isn't with us.
Maisha is with us.
Oh, Maisha is.
Miriam.
Oh,
Miriam is the one who's not here.
It's Miriam who is not. Well, then we're going to talk to Maisha with her actual self right here in front of us. All right, Maisha Promi was born in Dhaka, Bangladesh, and has moved back and forth between Bangladesh and the United States throughout her life. Maisha used to write poetry as a child, growing up in New York City, but rediscovered it in college while taking classes for her writing minor. Aside from poetry, Maisha enjoys all things creative, from baking to crocheting to writing fiction. She's won awards for her short stories and hopes to continue writing alongside working in research and education. Maisha graduated from MIT with a degree in biological engineering and is currently pursuing her PhD in biological sciences at Yale University. Welcome, Maisha. So sorry that I that I thought you weren't here.
No worries. Thank you for the introduction. Yeah, the poem I'm going to be reading is called 1,000 Places, and it's one of my favorite poems to read. So to start, Yellow Earth.
Wait, sorry. What page is it on?
Oh, sorry. Yes, it's on page 170.
Okay.
All right. 1,000 Places. Yellow earth between my toes, chasing chickens through the yard, the slip on mosaic tile before the crash and the permanent scar. A strip of airplane carpet miles above the gleaming sea, gritty grayness of the schoolyard scraping raw against my knee. Polished floor of marble tile like ice in the winter chill, dorm room carpet brown and warm with a history undistilled. Treading through pearlescent snow and through monsoon-flooded streets, I've walked 1,000 places and found home beneath my feet.
Inshallah. Okay, so my first thought when I read this one was that you don't have that same problem of feeling like you don't fit in any culture, but rather you take your identity with you wherever you go and find a niche for yourself there. Is that what you were thinking?
I guess, yeah, partly. Well, as children of immigrants, as someone, this poem is based on my experiences of having moved so many times throughout my life, and that definitely comes with a lot of struggle, a lot of adjusting. But I guess in this poem, I just wanted to capture like the good sides of it, like the positive aspects of it, like all the love I felt for the different places I've been, and like eventually finding a sense of home in every place I've moved to.
Beautiful. That's such a beautiful lesson. Such a beautiful lesson that home, like there's always something positive. There's always something. A lot of times you hear, like in movies, people say things like, oh, I was an army brat, we moved all the time, or I was always the new kid, blah blah blah. And I always thought, well, being the new kid has some advantages. It's fun, it's adventure. Look at it as adventure. So I guess it has both of those sides. So when you were writing these particular poems, and I love the part that you talk about the dorm room with history undistilled. So that was kind of the phase of your life. Where was your favorite place to write at that time?
At the time that I wrote this poem?
At the time that these poems that are in the book were written.
Okay. That's a good question. I feel like I wrote all my poems in my dorm room. I can't remember. At one point in the middle of the pandemic, we all went home. So I was home in Bangladesh, not in my dorm room, but in my childhood bedroom, and I was writing there too. But I think I would say my dorm room was my favorite place because I had a single and it was just complete quiet, and I had a window that looked out onto the courtyard of the dorm that we lived in, and also there was a view of the Charles River, and the water is always beautiful and blue, and sometimes there'd be sailboats out on the water, and it's just like a very, very nice, peaceful, calm view to like look out into while I was writing.
Are any of you the kind of person who gets a kind of writer who gets a kind of a scrap of an idea and writes it down quick somewhere and then goes back later? Afifa, you are?
I do a lot of that. Actually, I haven't written a full poem since we've written this book, but if I go to my like notes app on my phone, there's a bunch of like 1 or 2 liners that'll just kind of come to me. And eventually maybe it'll get turned into something, but I do have many of those.
Seems like everybody kind of has a little bit of that going on. Are the rest of you still writing poetry as well? Or are you kind of on a poetry pause? I know Afifa that doesn't mean that she gave up on writing poetry, just that she's on poetry pause because she's on board exam. I can't think of anything starts with the B. Okay.
I also have the same notes app on my phone filled with all these little snippets, and sometimes I might be coming home from work and something will just like click and I have to write it down before I forget this. And yeah, eventually they coalesce into something bigger.
So nice that we have our phones with us all the time now. My dad carries a little flip, like those little, like it's a spiral notebook that flips over like that. It doesn't open like this. Carries one with him. He has stacks and stacks of them because he's always carried them. So he writes down little ideas and he writes down, different things that happen and different appointments that he has. And they're so fun to go through. So maybe it would behoove everybody to keep their notes sections of their phones so that their kids and grandkids can enjoy that kind of way to get to know you in a different way. All right, so it's time for Marwa.
Hello, Assalamualaikum.
Ahleen alaikum salam. This is Marwa Abdul Hayy. She was born in Chennai, India. Did I say it right?
Yes.
And has called many places home across the US and in Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and Qatar. MashaAllah. Travel and living different places has really enriched all of your lives and all of your writing. Everybody has been all kinds of different places, subhanAllah. She completed her bachelor's and master's studies in computer science at MIT and is currently pursuing a PhD in robotics and artificial intelligence at the University of California. Berkeley, sorry. She is drawn to poetry for its oral tradition and grew up hearing her Dada Saab recite the works of Muhammad Iqbal and Jalaluddin Muhammad Rumi in their home in South India. Performing, writing, and listening to poetry allows her to connect with God and understand existence. It is her form of dawah to herself and the world. Beautiful. I love that last part. We all need dawah to ourselves.
Yes. ahead.
Quickly, before you read your poem, I have a quickity question, which is, what language was Muhammad Iqbal and Rumi read to you in?
So it was read to me in Urdu. So that's the language that I speak at home. And I think I didn't have as much of an appreciation for it when I was younger than I did when I grew older. And so, alhamdulillah for that, and for my parents, like trying to emphasize the importance of retaining our mother tongue.
Alhamdulillah, Aywallah. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, so the poem that I will be reading is on page 73, and it's called A Citizenship. You step outside when a gush of spice hits the air and you and your nose. It's embedded deep within the fabrics of your jacket. The Tide detergent never seems to mask the smells of homeland you are so ashamed of. They ask you why you smell like spice and why your food has so much pepper. But Vasco da Gama didn't go to India to get pepper. He went to get the haldi in sambar and chicken jalfrezi, and the zira in the butter chicken you have when you think you've experienced India. You shrug in response. Abba told you that you are now an American. I remember the time I became a citizen of this country. Age 10, two-piece hijab removed for a passport photo. Shame knowing you didn't fight for your right to dignity. Shame knowing your mother and sisters did the same. You knew it in that moment when you and your two-piece scarf ran through the aisles of Costco with your mother in her shiny and new black abaya. They stared. And now, you speak in the language of your colonizers from 1858. It would only be years later, when you were gifted the power of the pen, to acknowledge the seams in the fabrics of your jacket.
MashaAllah. I am so grateful that you guys' work is 100% representative of that two sides of having that immigrant experience and at the same time that just plain old American culture experience. SubhanAllah, and the struggle of trying to weave those together and the times when it's not a struggle. Who can I ask right quickly, who is it that did the beautiful illustrations?
That was Afifa. Like SubhanAllah, she captured the exact picture in my head of me walking behind my mom. SubhanAllah. Like, it's beautiful.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Beautiful. I wanted to ask you, what is the first poem you remember that affected you? And it was probably when you were very, very young, since you were exposed to poetry so young.
Oh, wow. That is, I think it's hard to describe exactly which one. But I think I can try to pull up one. Let me think of something from my dada. He would often talk about, I guess I can't remember exactly the name of the poem, but I can describe the theme. He would often talk about, poetry that I think it's in Urdu when you speak it, there's words that sound similar. And so one of the poems that he described was, it's a poem and a story. It's basically about a man who is trying to copy someone's answers, and he's looking over and he's trying to copy what's what his I don't know, friend is writing on the exam, and to copy it to the exact T, there's a mosquito flying around, and that guy slams the mosquito on his paper, and so he also he sees a mosquito and he also slams it on his piece of paper. And I remember that being such a funny story. That was a poem that he it's not from any it's not from Rumi or anything, but I just remember that story of telling you, cheating has grave consequences, right? Like when you cheat to the T, like you're slamming the mosquito on your sheet. I can't think of anything more profound, but I just remember that often as a funny story that he would tell us.
Yes, I love it. And subhanallah, that you remember that poem till now. You'll remember that poem for the rest of your life. Like, we don't know what effect our loving and affection has on kids, that we're helping to raise, or people that we're teaching and all that stuff. So fun. All right, so now let's read Miriam's bio. Our missing comrade is Miriam Iman Dogger, right? Dogger?
Perfect.
Okay. She was born in Singapore and has lived in Dubai and Massachusetts. Moving every few years, Miriam describes the closest thing to home for her as the intangible bridge she and her siblings occupy between the very different countries and cultures and families of her US American mother and Pakistani father. Miriam has loved writing since she was in elementary school, creating fictional worlds and characters in the back of her notebooks. However, she started writing poetry during her time as a biology major and urban planning minor at MIT. Poetry is now deeply connected to self-care and spirituality for Miriam, while she is training to be a physician at Harvard Medical School. Would someone like to read one of Miriam's poems so we don't escape without having her contribution? Let's see.
Yeah, it's a tough choice because Miriam has so many good ones.
Okay, I will tell you the one that I was thinking of, the one that I had in my mind when we sat down to talk, and maybe it was one of hers, I don't remember. It's the one that talks about the taste of missed breakfast and toothpaste in your mouth. Maybe it's talking about being at the embassy, trying to get a visa or trying to get a passport or something like that. I'm remembering it from the time that when we did the judging. I remember it till now.
I think that might be my shop. About the passport, at least. I don't know about the first part. I don't know if anyone has one in mind, but I really like Dadi and Oud by Miriam, but I don't know.
Okay, what page is it on?
Oh, are we doing this?
Dadi's a beautiful one.
Okay, we can
Okay,
do that.
Dadi. Let's find Dadi. Dadi? Dadi? How do you say it?
Dadi.
Dadi. Dadi.
I think it's on page 110.
Okay, great. Oh, yes.
I definitely cannot do justice. Miriam reads this so beautifully, but I can try.
Okay, hit it.
Yeah, so this is Dadi by Miriam Dogger. I haven't seen you in a while, but today I was told you prayed for me. And I prayed for the olive oil when it slipped from your hands onto my scalp, aching strands of hair, and the drought of being without you. I prayed for the way that you warmed before using it, the slow swirls of the honey and the quick whisks of the eggs. I prayed for your wrinkled palms and their decades of hidden work, 1,000 back scratches and mango slices and tummy ache sodas, 100 duas fanned into the pores of my skin. For every sugar molecule and a spoonful of halwa, your 2 golden bangles that rest on my wrists. Hours of Quran we read cross-legged together, the insha'Allahs and the masha'Allahs, the way you showed me to always turn to Allah. For the biggest blessing you ever sent me, from faith a leap, from halfway across the world, telling my father you accepted that woman, my mother, bored in a strange place called New Hampshire. For all the flavors of sustenance you showed me, I pray you glow in paradise. Brings tears to my eyes every time. It was such a beautiful poem.
So beautiful. How did I not remember the rest of these? The one that stuck in my memory was the one of being in one of those terrible places waiting for that passport or visa or whatever it was. But that one was a lovely one to end with. All right. So I told you that we have a what do we call it? A curveball for you. And the curveball is that we have a section called Stop the Presses. And in the section called Stop the Presses, we ask you, usually we do 3 questions for each person, but we'll do one because usually it's only one author. But we'll ask you each one question that has nothing to do with writing, just something fun to get to know you a little bit. All right, so the first one is, are you ready for this? Let's see. Maisha, tell us about when you learned to drive.
Ooh, that's such an interesting question. Okay. So I learned to drive when I was 14 years old, in Bangladesh, not in the States. My dad taught me how to drive. He made me wake up very early on like Saturday and Sunday mornings because there'd be no traffic on the streets. And then we'd take our car to like this empty lot near the airport. And he taught me how to drive there. And so I drove in Dhaka for a couple of years until I moved to the States for college. And then I forgot how to drive.
Oh no. How long was it?
How long was what?
How long was the time that you didn't drive?
Yeah, so I think the last time I drove was when I was like 17. So, and I'm 24 now. So
oh my goodness.
7 years.
In a hot minute, huh? I'm sure it's a completely different experience. I know it's a completely different experience because I've driven in Syria and I've driven in Saudi Arabia. So I know, not in Saudi Arabia, in Kuwait. So I know how different.
Yeah, it's pretty nerve-wracking sometimes.
All right, nice one. Okay, the next one is for, I should have made a little spinny thing so that we could choose them randomly. Let's do Marwa. Your question is, what is the first book or movie that made you cry?
Oh man. I feel like Aisha's smiling because she might know my answer. Let me think. Okay, I can't remember the first, but I can remember a recent one. So I was reading a book called The Midnight Library. This is I think the most recent time I have maybe cried, not the first time.
Yeah, okay, that's fine, that's fair.
That's what I can remember. But it's about a person who has many regrets in life, and she's just constantly she has a lot of regrets, and she's just thinking like my life is not worth living, and I just want to I want to end my life. And she's in this limbo period between her life ending and her life not ending. And she basically, I'm kind of ruining the story, but not really. She goes through a bunch of possibilities of what her life could have been, and realizes that in that whole process of I wish I had kids. I wish I pursued this career profession. I wish I did blah, blah, blah. And she goes through all of them and realizes that, every life will have regret, and it's not as rosy or as beautiful as you think it would be, subhanallah. And it really put things in perspective for me, because I think a lot of us think of the multiple different options we could have gone into, right? And subhanallah, it really makes you realize that Allah is the best of planners, and He has a path for you, and your life is changeable at every moment. And that was kind of her realization, that her life begins now, and there's so many new possibilities that she has open to her. I think it's one of my, for now, my top 5 books. And it did make me, cry a little. So I'm glad it's a good book.
You did a beautiful job of describing it without giving any spoilers. Nicely done. Everybody read it. Go read it. Everybody read it. Okay, next we shall visit with Aisha. Are you ready, Aisha? Tell us about the last time you vomited and why.
The last time. Wow. The last time that I can remember, I think I just had food poisoning or something. It was
Oh
like a year
yeah, one
ago.
of those.
And I like, yeah, it was hot. It was hot outside and it was a little hot in the apartment. And then I just ate some fish. And then I took a nap. And then, yeah, lovely.
There's nothing like throwing up fish. My daughter, one of my daughters used to eat, like, she would get, when she was a teenager, she would get a whole bag of hot Cheetos and eat the whole bag, like in one day. And then she would be up at 2:00 in the morning throwing up hot Cheetos. All right, let's go to Alina. Alina, sorry. Okay. What famous person who's no longer living do you most identify with, or do you feel like you would most like to meet? Or no, not you would most like to meet, the one that you think is most like you.
That is a good question. Wow. I've honestly never thought about this. We're doing some real soul searching right now. Um, okay, I'm gonna go out on a whim because like I don't know why this is the first person coming to my head because you had mentioned this is gonna be such a weird answer because you mentioned adrenaline inducing experiences, like
Oh yeah, we forgot to talk about those. Yeah.
I forget. I mean, I don't know why my mind is making this link right now. It's short circuiting. But I'm just gonna say Amelia Earhart because she kind of was like she did the thing.
Nice.
So I would say for that reason only, I identify with Amelia Earhart.
Nice. I like it. That's a good one. So tell us about what are the adrenaline inducing experiences that you partake in?
Sure. So one of my favorite ones that comes to mind, and I actually have, it's my last poem in the book, is about the very first time that I went skydiving. It was in Interlaken, and I was just like, I decided last minute, I was like, okay, what is there to do here? Skydive, hike. I feel like hiking, I'll do that later. I want to skydive. And I did it on a whim. I was with my parents. They were not happy at all. They were trying to like fight against it, be like, I'll buy you something else, or like try to get me something that's like the equivalent of the cost. But for me as a person, I really value like experiences. And so I decided last minute I wanted to go skydiving, and I remember like feeling so pumped about it all the way up until the moment my brother was with me, and I was feeling super pumped and confident about it until I saw him jump out of the plane. And I was like, no, I can't do this. And then I jumped out of the plane, and it was the best experience of my life. I say that so wholeheartedly because the perspective you have up there while you're dropping to the ground is literally one of a kind. And so with that, that is one adrenaline inducing experience. And so right now that I'm like finished with school, I'm like pursuing my motorcycle license that my friends very kindly got me as a gift last year to get. And I'm gonna attempt to pursue my private pilot license. So things along those lines.
Very nice. Okay, anybody else been skydiving? Me neither. My brother has. My hat is off. My hat is off to you. I couldn't ride the Ferris wheel. Okay, so
Same, honestly.
Oh, subhanAllah. So you decided to face your fears, or did you just
Face fears, and that's the kind of mentality I have. I'm like, I hate it, but I'll do it, kind of thing.
Bravo. All right, so Afifa, right? Afifa is what major historical event took place in or near the year you were born?
Oh, wow. 1999. I have no idea what happened in 1999. But I think the first thing that, kind of comes to my mind is that 2001, 9/11 wasn't too far after I was born. I think I was at a unique age where I wasn't old enough to know what had happened. And so I think I still learn from it and hear from it through others' experiences, even though it was something that I was there for. And so, yeah, just thinking about, how much that's changed our lived experiences, even though weren't there to see a lot of the repercussions and face a lot of the repercussions. And, alhamdulillah, I think we live in a world today that's a lot more welcoming than it was in 2001. But definitely something that's changed the way that this country views us, that the world views each other, and just, yeah.
Anybody have any ideas what happened in 1999?
At the end of it, everyone was scared of 2000.
Y2K.
What is gonna happen? Yeah, it was Y2K. Okay, yeah, that happened at the end of 1999.
Yeah, and it was for those of us who came before 1999. There was a song. Do you guys know the Prince song? There's a song about we're gonna party like it's 1999, and when it came out, we were all like, oh, 1999, like that's never gonna come. It's so far away, Oh my gosh, and now it's 24 years ago. Ya Latif. Well, ladies, thank you. Thank you a million for sharing your work with us and sharing your experiences of writing it with us and sharing your experiences of growing up on all sides of all the oceans. So thank you guys for being with us for Daybreak Live. We'll be back next Thursday at 7 p.m. Actually, I think we're going to be 6. We did this one because we had people in all kinds of different time zones, but our regular time will be now 6 p.m. 6 p.m. for Daybreak Live. So take care, everybody, and keep on writing. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you so much for having us.